This week, we got a new VR headset on the way. We talk more about Redfall, and Duck Hunt makes a comeback, but not in a good way. So let's just go ahead, together, as a people, and take it out! And welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. But before we hop into this week's stories, I want to apologize because I overlooked something in one of the stories last week. So last week we talked about Nintendo blocking the Dolphin emulator on Steam, and I stated that Dolphin was like most other emulators where they don't provide the files needed to actually play the games. What I meant by that is with a lot of emulators, you have to either have a BIOS file or some kind of decryption key from the original system in order to play games, aside from, of course, the actual games themselves. Well, apparently Dolphin includes the decryption keys from the original systems to allow you to play games. I hadn't personally used Dolphin before, but with other emulators I've used, usually the user has to provide those files. So it was an oversight on my part for not doing further research about this particular emulator. But with that information in mind, I have to say that Nintendo is right to block it if they are providing those files from the original system, because that is kind of stealing their IP at that point. So again, I want to apologize for getting that part wrong in last week's video. But there's also been some additional news that's come out since last week about this story, so let's talk about it. So the second part of this is that Nintendo wasn't the one who initially contacted Valve about the emulator coming to Steam. It's been confirmed that Valve actually reached out to Nintendo to make them aware that the emulator was coming to their marketplace. They basically said the reason they did this is because they know historically that Nintendo hasn't been okay with emulators. And since this one in particular does include those keys to decrypt games, I can understand why Valve would do this. They don't want to make it seem like they're supporting stealing another company's IP by hosting the emulator on their marketplace without Nintendo knowing about it first. I mean, at the end of the day, Steam is a marketplace, but it's still a business, and you definitely don't want another company's choices to negatively affect your business. Now, while we're talking about Nintendo, let's talk about Duck Hunt. So if you're not familiar with Duck Hunt, it was a game for the original NES where you could shoot ducks using the world famous NES Zapper. Now, I didn't know anybody in the early 90s that didn't have at least one of these in their house somewhere. Well, apparently someone had one in their house and they decided to use it to rob a convenience store. So apparently someone in South Carolina decided to use a Nintendo accessory in order to steal $300 from a convenience store. Fortunately, the suspect has been caught and apprehended, probably by that dog that shows up and laughs when you miss shots sometimes. And they're probably going to be playing plenty of Duck Hunt in prison. Sorry, I know that last story wasn't really 100% gaming related, but I just had to talk about it because I thought it was funny. But you know what's not funny? The state that Redfall launched in. Well, there's been some news stories coming out about Arcane and how this game ended up being in the state that it's in. So Bloomberg did an interview with some of the former developers that worked at Arcane on this game, and they're saying that the problems with this game started way before Microsoft purchased Bethesda. Apparently this game was originally supposed to be a live service game similar to Fortnite with microtransactions, but that got scrapped early in development, which that does make sense with the art style. It does kind of remind me a little bit of Fortnite, but the issue seems to have happened after they changed directions and there wasn't a clear vision for what the game would be. The other issue that's being reported is there was apparently high turnover for employees because the project lacked focus and direction, and apparently a lot of people just left because of it. Now, of course, this is all secondhand reporting from interviews with former staff, but I think it lines up with what the game ended up being. It feels like from the story standpoint that the game didn't really have a real direction. Like I've talked about before, Microsoft put a lot of promotion behind Redfall, especially with their lack of exclusives right now for the Xbox Series consoles, but it sounds like this game was never going to be the big PvE multiplayer game that they wanted it to be. But you know what I want? A new and affordable VR headset, and that's what we're talking about in our final story. So Meta, formerly known as Facebook, has officially announced the Meta Quest 3, formerly known as the Oculus Quest. So it is coming out this fall for $500. It's been redesigned to be slimmer, apparently 40% slimmer than the Quest 2, and it has their redesigned controller similar to what they did with the Quest Pro. It also has more cameras in the front and can do color pass-through and AR. They're also claiming that the CPU performance will be 26% better than the Quest 2, and the GPU will be 19% better than the Quest 2, and 11% better than the Quest Pro, which is really making the Quest Pro feel more overpriced than it already was. Now, there's still a few things we don't know, like the resolution, refresh rate, and the type of screen they're using, but it would be nice if they went back to OLED like they did with the original Quest, but we'll probably get more details as it gets closer to fall. There's obviously going to be a price difference between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3, The base model for the Quest 2 launched at $300 back in 2020. That was replaced by the 128 gig model later, and then they did a price increase of $100, making it $400. So right off the bat, this is going to be $500, so it'll be in direct competition price-wise, at least with the PSVR 2. So we'll see how these headsets stack up against each other when we get more information about what the Quest 3's optics are going to look like. The main thing that I'm personally excited for is that pass-through and the potential to be able to do AR and VR with that headset at an affordable price. That's something that was lacking with the first two iterations of the headset. I'm also wondering how they'll handle Oculus Link, if they're still going to allow you to plug in with a USB-C cable to a PC, or if they'll go all wireless this time. Either way, I'll keep an eye out for more information as it comes my way. You know what else is coming my way? The door, because I'm getting out of here for today. But let me know what you think in the comments. What gaming accessory would you use to rob a convenience store? I'm just kidding, don't do that. Let me know in the comments if you're excited about the Meta Quest 3. And until next time, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace.